Hi, I'm Lynn Perry Parker. I started LPP Law about 7 years ago after working in national law firms, mid-sized law firms, and small law firms for almost 30 years now. I'm doing this because I am a small business now. And like many small businesses, I love what I do, the law. I love analyzing the law. I like knowing the law. I like applying the law and helping my clients avoid problems or deal with their problems as they resolve. I hate the marketing part of being a small business. So I figured this was the best way that I could actually let you know who I am and how I might be able to help you without having to do the kind of traditional types of marketing. So the next issue that I see in terms of businesses and how they get into trouble and how they end up spending too much money on all the noise going around in their business as opposed to just doing the core of what they got into business for, providing the services that they provide or building the widget that they provide, is dealing with the employee issues. And so many times people are afraid to fire bad employees. I will tell you now, free legal advice. Get rid of bad employees and do it sooner rather than later. It can only get worse. You have a right. It's at will employment in Maryland, Virginia, and DC. Notwithstanding all of the other laws that you hear about, you still have that right. I'll help you make the distinction of when in what situations you can't, but you have that right. Poor performers should be terminated. The next, along those lines, in terms of, just like I talked about when you start your business, or even if you've been in business for a while, you should have your operating agreement or your shareholders agreement so that the owners and those in management have a sense, have an understanding, they're all on the same page about who's doing what, how, and what needs to be done and what are the expectations of each other. The same way that concept and why you have those is why you should have, if you have any more than, I would say if you have any more than 3 employees, you should have an employee manual. Now, the size of the manual will be different and what's in the manual will be different, but so many of the laws, and remember, so many of the laws apply to you regardless. If you have 1 employee, it applies to you. So many of these laws require that you advise your employees about what their rights are. You've seen posters hanging up and such things. Well, in the electronic age, so many employees are virtual, working off-site, working at home. So what we do as employment lawyers, we really are using the employee manual as the way of meeting that notice requirements, and at the bare minimum, giving the notice requirements, but also helping you. And if you do have some sort of HR, or if it is you that's administering the HR, or you're kind of jack of all trades office manager that often assumes that HR, and I can work with them, but also your employees. So everyone, again, is on the same page. People hear things and they hear about law, but not all laws apply to all companies. For example, the Family Medical Leave Act, we're kind of aware of that you have rights to take off for your own health issues or your family's health issues. But that only applies to businesses of 50 or more employees. I cannot tell you the number of employee manuals that I reviewed for clients that they got from their payroll service provider that have Family Medical Leave Act, and that's a cumbersome law to comply with. That can really put you out of business if you have to give a person 12 weeks of leave, even if you don't have to pay for it. In Montgomery County, you're going to have some aspect of it that's going to probably fall under that. But even if it's just 12 weeks, that's a lot of time for a small business not to have somebody that they're working. You don't have that kind of redundancy in your workers to be able to do that. Yet I find them in most employee manuals that I review that they've received from their payroll service providers. And again, most of those manuals from payroll service providers do not address any of the local laws. Just where I am sitting here in Rockville. Rockville has its own employment laws. It has its own Human Rights Commission. Montgomery County has a lot of employment laws that absolutely need to be in a manual. Maryland has its own laws, and of course there's the federal laws. What laws apply depend on your size, they depend on your industry. Montgomery County has specific laws that we talked about the employee versus contractor. Even if the duties and the income would qualify someone to be a true independent contractor under the law, that they truly are independent. They work for multiple, compensation sources. Montgomery County and even federal law and some have made certain types of jobs statutory employees. What are those? Your household people who clean your homes. There's IRS. You are supposed to be paying them a certain level, and you are considered their employer. In Montgomery County, janitors have extraordinary protections. Even if the contract is canceled from the overall operator, the janitors have a right to be rehired by the new contractor. Again, this is a lot of detail. Just give you a sampling of the types of very, very specific laws that apply to you, your business, your industry, and based on your size. An employee manual can help. If it's done right, can be a user manual for you to run your company in compliance with the laws, to again avoid what I always saying, avoid the problems afterwards. It should be viewed as an investment. It should be viewed as an insurance policy. I hope you found the information that I discussed on these videos helpful. If you'd like a written outline of the topics that I discussed, I do have an ebook on my website. My website is lpp-law.com. Phone number is 301-444-4513. I love what I do, and I'd love to help your business. Thanks.